Rain falls in thin, nervous lines across the highway. Flashing lights cut through the darkness. Officer Brad Connor leans out of his cruiser, hand on his holster, eyes locked on the small sedan parked at the shoulder. Dispatch crackles through his radio. Unit 19, report says the driver refused to stop for 3 miles. Connor smirks. Got her now. He steps out, the rain soaking his uniform instantly. He adjusts his vest, the badge glinting in the headlights. Inside the car, he sees movement. A shadow, slow and trembling. License and registration, he shouts. His voice slices through the night like a blade. No answer, just the faint rustle of hands moving inside the car. Connor's jaw tightens. Hands where I can see them! The driver's window rolls down halfway. A woman's voice, calm, careful. Officer, please, I'm pregnant. My husband's in the car behind me. We were just out, he snaps. Step out of the vehicle. She hesitates. Her eyes flick toward the side mirror, toward the second car pulled over a few feet back. A man's silhouette stands outside it, hands raised high. Sir, please don't hurt her. Connor's flashlight beam hits his face. Stay back. He turns back toward the sedan. The woman's hands are up now, palms trembling. Her voice breaks. I'm a nurse. I just got off work. Please, I can show you my ID. Step out, ma'am. She unbuckles her seatbelt slowly. The seat creaks. Her breathing is loud, uneven. Then, a flash of lightning. For half a second, her face is fully visible. Young, exhausted, fear wrapped around composure. Her name tag still pinned to her scrubs. Maya Harris, U.S. Army Medical Division. Connor doesn't see the tag. He only sees her reaching toward the passenger seat. For her purse, for something shiny in the half-light. His training kicks in, or maybe it's something darker. He draws his weapon. Stop! Don't move! But she already froze. Hands mid-air, eyes wide. He fires anyway. The sound shatters the night. A single, deafening crack that silences the rain. Maya collapses against the steering wheel, horn blaring in one long, endless scream. For a few seconds, time stops. Even the rain hesitates. Her husband, Daniel Harris, sprints from his car. No! He roars, but 2 other officers tackle him to the ground before he reaches her. Stay down! One yells. He struggles, voice cracking. She's pregnant! She's 7 months pregnant! Connor stands frozen, gun still raised, smoke rising from the barrel. His heartbeat pounds like thunder in his ears. He steps closer to the car, each footfall heavy. The window is shattered. Maya's hand hangs limp out the side, her wedding ring glinting under the flashing red and blue. He lowers his weapon. Dispatch, he stammers. Shots fired. Suspect. Suspect down. A pause. Then the voice on the radio. Confirm, Officer Connor. Repeat. Suspect who? He can't answer. He looks down again. The name tag is right there now, soaked in blood. Maya Harris. Backup arrives minutes later. Paramedics rush in, but the silence in their faces says everything. One kneels beside her, checks her pulse, and whispers, She's gone. Another glances at Connor, expression cold. Good job, hero. They pull her body from the car with mechanical precision. A small ultrasound monitor falls from her purse, screen cracked, still flickering. The faint outline of a heartbeat glows for just a second before fading away. By the time the cameras arrive, it's too late. The story has already begun. Whispered by bystanders, recorded on phones, carried by the storm. Pregnant woman shot during traffic stop. Hands were up. Cop said she moved. The crowd grows. Flashing lights turn the wet road into a stage. Connor stands alone in the center, soaked, hollow-eyed, the gun still in his hand. Reporters shout questions. He doesn't answer. He can't, because the sound still rings in his head. The single shot that will echo across a nation. An ambulance door slams shut. Inside, Daniel Harris sits beside his wife's covered body, his hands shaking but his face calm, too calm. He stares through the rain-streaked window at the officer who killed her, and in that silence, something changes. Not grief, not rage, something colder. A promise. Back at the scene, Connor finally holsters his weapon. His partner walks up, voice trembling. What the hell did you do? Connor shakes his head. She reached for something. His partner looks at him. No, Brad, she didn't. Connor turns toward the dark road, but everywhere he looks, cameras are already watching. recording, judging. And somewhere deep in the city, a phone vibrates on a Pentagon desk. An unseen voice says, "Get me everything on a nurse named Maya Harris." Dawn crawls across the highway, pale and cold. The rain has stopped, but the road still glistens red and blue under the dying flash of police lights. The sedan is gone. So is Maya Harris. All that's left is a dark stain on the pavement and a few shattered pieces of glass that catch the sunrise. Officer Brad Connor stands beside his cruiser, uniform soaked, hair matted against his forehead. His hands still shake, though the gun's long been holstered. A superior officer approaches. "Connor, you're being placed on administrative leave. Standard procedure." He nods, eyes vacant. Standard procedure, that phrase tastes like rust in his mouth. He watches the coroner's van disappear down the road. Inside it, the woman he killed. A woman he still insists moved. But even as he thinks it, he knows he's lying. To himself most of all. Back in the city, the hospital morgue is quiet. Fluorescent lights hum above white tiles and cold air. Daniel Harris sits in the hallway outside the autopsy room, still wearing the blood-stained shirt from last night. He hasn't spoken in hours. He just stares at the metal door separating him from everything he lost. A nurse walks past, stops, looks at him gently. "Sir, do you need someone to call?" He shakes his head slowly. "She was someone who did the calling. She was the help." The nurse hesitates, then whispers, "She worked here, didn't she?" Daniel looks up for the first time. "Yes, she saved lives here." He stands abruptly. "I need her badge, her army one." The nurse nods, hurries off. When she returns, she hands him a small plastic card, U.S. Army Medical Division, Captain Maya Harris. He holds it tightly, thumb brushing over the photo of her smiling face. He whispers, "They killed a soldier." At precinct headquarters, chaos brews behind closed doors. Connor sits in a small interview room, a cup of coffee cooling in front of him. Two detectives question him for the third time. "What did she do before you fired?" "She reached for something." "What did she reach for?" I don't know." They exchange looks. One of them leans forward. "Was there a weapon?" Connor's voice cracks. "No." The detective folds his arms. "So you shot an unarmed woman, a pregnant one." Connor slams his palm on the table. "She wasn't compliant. She didn't—" He stops mid-sentence. The words die in his throat. He sees it now, the image frozen in his mind. Her hands were up. The other detective quietly turns off the recorder. "This isn't going away," he mutters. By 9 a.m., the first video hits the internet. A bystander's phone clip. The angle is shaky, but the image is clear enough. A pregnant woman raising her hands, a police officer shouting, a gun firing. No context, no editing, just the truth, raw and undeniable. Within minutes, it spreads. Within an hour, it trends. By noon, every major outlet has it looped on repeat. Hashtags explode across social media. Hashtag Maya Harris, had hands up. Pregnant, had justice, for Maya. The comments section burns. People cry. People rage. And somewhere deep within the Pentagon, someone stops scrolling. In a secure office, Colonel Raymond Cole watches the same footage, jaw tightening. He's seen war. He's seen loss. But this is something else. He turns to his aide. "She was one of ours?" "Yes, sir. Medical division, stationed at Fort Bragg before her transfer." Cole's voice drops. "And the baby?" "7 months along, sir. It was viable." Cole stands, his hands clenching into fists. "Get the Pentagon on the line." The aide hesitates. "With respect, sir, it's a civilian matter." Cole's eyes flash. "Not anymore." Meanwhile, Daniel walks out of the hospital carrying a small white box. Inside are Maya's belongings. Her necklace, her phone, her stethoscope. The weight feels wrong, too light for everything it holds. He unlocks her phone, scrolling through photos. Her in uniform, smiling beside soldiers, her ultrasound picture labeled "Baby Harris, 7 months." Then he finds a text message, sent just an hour before the shooting. It's addressed to him. "Home soon. Can't wait to see you two." He closes his eyes, the screen glowing against his palm. He whispers, "You didn't make it home, Maya, but they'll hear you." At the precinct, reporters swarm outside the main entrance. Flashbulbs pop, questions fly. "Officer Connor, do you have any comment? Was the woman armed? Did you know she was military?" Connor doesn't respond. Two officers push him into a waiting car. One mutters, "Don't talk to anyone, not even your lawyer yet." He stares out the window as the cameras blur into streaks of light. For the first time, he feels it. Not guilt, not fear, but the slow, suffocating weight of consequence. At home, Daniel sets Maya's box on the table. He takes out her army badge, lays it beside her folded uniform. Then he reaches for his laptop, opens a new email. To press@usearmy.mil. Subject, Captain Harris. He types only one sentence. "If you want justice for your own, come get her name back." He hits send. Outside, thunder rolls again, distant, gathering strength. And somewhere between that storm and silence, the first call from the Pentagon begins to ring. By noon, the city hums with static. Not the sound of traffic or rain, the sound of millions of phones buzzing at once. The video has reached the world, and the world is not quiet anymore. Cafes, bus stops, classrooms, every screen plays the same 10 seconds. A woman with her hands up, a voice shouting, a single shot. No context, no edits, just truth, naked and merciless. At a small newsroom in Atlanta, producer Mara King stares at the feed on her monitor. "Who leaked this?" she asks. An intern shrugs. "No one knows, it just appeared." Reddit, then TikTok, then everywhere. Within minutes, the station director bursts into the room. "Run it, full story at 5, don't wait for permission." Mara hesitates. "She's pregnant, sir." He nods. "Exactly. People need to see it." Across town, Daniel Harris sits in his car outside the courthouse, the box of Maya's belongings still beside him. He watches as reporters crowd the front steps, microphones waving like weapons. One reporter speaks to the camera. "The victim has been identified as Captain Maya Harris, a 32-year-old Army nurse, 7 months pregnant. Sources confirm the Pentagon is monitoring the case closely." Daniel grips the steering wheel until his knuckles whiten. He whispers to the dashboard, "You hear that, Maya? They finally said your name." He starts the engine, drives away, nowhere specific. He just wants distance from the noise. Meanwhile, inside the Pentagon, tension thickens like smoke. A closed-door briefing is underway. Colonel Raymond Cole stands at the front of a dimly lit room, a freeze frame of the video projected behind him. Maya's raised hands frozen in surrender. "She was one of ours," Cole says flatly. "Her ID confirms active duty status. She was working on a classified medical project tied to base operations." Around the table, generals exchange uneasy glances. One asks, "Are we treating this as a civilian matter or internal?" Cole's jaw tightens. "She wore our uniform. That makes it our problem." At the same hour, Officer Brad Connor sits in his apartment, curtains drawn, phone buzzing nonstop. His lawyer calls again. "Don't open the door for anyone. Don't speak to press. Don't post online." Connor doesn't answer. He just stares at the TV. Every channel is him, the same freeze frame, the same line beneath his name. "Officer under investigation for fatal shooting of pregnant woman." He turns off the screen, but the silence feels worse. He presses his palms to his ears as if he can block out the memory. The horn blaring, the gunshot echoing, her eyes. His wife enters quietly, holding their baby daughter. "Brad," she whispers. "They're outside." He looks up, confused. "Who?" She nods toward the window. Through the blinds, he sees them. Reporters, neighbors, strangers, phones raised, recording. He closes his eyes and mutters, "I was just doing my job." But even to himself, it sounds hollow. Back at the Pentagon, a phone rings. A general answers, listens, and freezes. He looks to Cole. "Sir, the White House just called." Cole stands straighter. "What do they want?" "The president wants a statement ready by tonight. They're calling it a national failure of conduct." Cole exhales slowly. He's been in wars, but he's never seen one start with a video. In the streets of Atlanta, protesters gather faster than police can contain them. Homemade signs rise above the crowd. Her hands were up. Pregnant, unarmed, American. People chant her name like a heartbeat. "Maya, Maya, Maya." The sound travels, through streets, through phones, through living rooms where families who've never met her sit in silence, unsure whether to cry or rage. At 6 p.m., every news network cuts to breaking coverage. Anchor voices are solemn now. Tonight, the Pentagon confirms Captain Maya Harris was an active duty medical officer. The Defense Department has expressed outrage, calling the act an affront to American values. Cameras flash to a Pentagon press room. Colonel Cole steps to the podium. He clears his throat. This department does not tolerate the murder of its own. We are cooperating with federal investigators, but let me be clear, this is no longer a local issue. This is national. The room erupts in questions. Cole steps away from the mic, leaving the echo of his words to fill the space. That night, Daniel Harris sits in the dark, the glow of the TV painting his face in blue light. He watches the footage again, frame by frame, moment by moment. When the gun fires, he doesn't flinch anymore. He just whispers, "Now you can't look away." He opens his laptop and writes a post. "She wasn't just my wife. She was a soldier. She served this country, and this country repaid her with a bullet." Within minutes, it's shared 100,000 times. By morning, 1,000,000. At 2 a.m., inside the Pentagon command wing, Cole receives a message marked urgent. He opens it. A single line blinks on the screen. Her unit requests military jurisdiction, full authorization granted. Cole leans back. He whispers to himself, "God help that officer." And somewhere in his dark apartment, Brad Connor finally looks at his reflection. The same hands that pulled the trigger, the same eyes that looked down the barrel. For the first time, he whispers what he's been afraid to say. "I killed a soldier." The words hang heavy in the air, and no one, not even he, dares to argue. Morning in Washington doesn't begin with sunlight. It begins with noise, phones ringing, printers humming, voices shouting across glass offices. Inside the Pentagon, tension hums like electricity. The video of Captain Maya Harris has reached every corner of the building, every briefing screen, every coffee table, every heart. Colonel Raymond Cole stands at the head of the Situation Room, eyes fixed on the big screen replaying the clip. He doesn't flinch at the gunshot anymore. He's watched it 50 times. Behind him, aides whisper, "White House wants a statement before noon." Media's calling it Pentagon civilian betrayal. Cole exhales slowly, turns toward them. "Get me the Secretary of Defense and find the husband, Daniel Harris. We owe him more than a soundbite." At the same hour, Daniel Harris sits in his small apartment. He hasn't slept. The apartment smells like coffee and grief. Boxes of flowers pile by the door. Stranger's sympathy wrapped in silence. The doorbell rings. He doesn't move. It rings again. When he finally opens it, 2 military officers stand there. "Mr. Harris," one says, "Colonel Cole requests your presence at the Pentagon. Immediately." Daniel stares at them, voice low. "I don't work for you." "No, sir," the officer replies softly. "But she did." Daniel hesitates. Then he nods. "Give me 10 minutes." He closes the door, looks around at the apartment, her uniform still hanging, her ultrasound photo still on the fridge. He whispers, "I guess we're going to finish your fight." Back at the Pentagon, Cole briefs the Secretary of Defense, Marjorie Holt, a woman known for her measured calm. She's not calm today. "I want answers, Abayu," she says sharply. "How did one of our own die in the street like an enemy?" Cole slides a folder across the table. "Because someone mistook her for one." Holt opens the file. "Officer Brad Connor, local PD, Georgia. Prior complaints? 3. Her eyes narrow. "And he was still on duty?" "Yes, ma'am." She leans back. "This isn't an isolated act. It's rot." She looks up. "I want jurisdiction." Cole raises a brow. "Ma'am, that means going against justice and the state." "I don't care who we go against," Holt replies. "She wore our flag. They killed a soldier. The army will answer for her." At that same moment, inside the local police department, Connor sits in an interrogation room again. No cameras this time. Just his lawyer and Captain Elliot Graves, his superior. Graves's voice is low, controlled. "Brad, Washington's calling this a federal case now. Do you understand what that means?" Connor stares at the table. "They're saying she was military." Graves nods. "More than that, they're saying she was on active assignment. You didn't just shoot a woman, Brad. You shot a federal officer." Connor's throat tightens. "That's not what I meant." Graves cuts him off. "It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what the tape shows." Connor's hands shake. "I'll lose everything." Graves looks at him coldly. "You already did." By midday, the Pentagon press room fills to capacity. Reporters crowd the front row, cameras ready. Secretary Holt steps to the podium. "Good afternoon. Yesterday, the Department of Defense confirmed the loss of Captain Maya Harris, a U.S. Army medical officer killed during an unlawful civilian police stop." Flashbulbs explode. "She served her country with honor. She carried life inside her. and she died with her hands raised. The room falls silent. Then Holt's tone hardens. We are opening a federal investigation into the conduct that led to her death. The Defense Department will cooperate with civilian authorities, but we will not remain silent. A reporter shouts, "Madam Secretary, are you declaring military jurisdiction?" Holt's eyes lift to the cameras. "I'm declaring humanity." The broadcast spreads instantly. Families watching at home freeze mid-bite. Soldiers stationed overseas stop what they're doing. Every screen in America carries her name again. #Justice. For Maya trends at #1. By evening, people gather outside the Pentagon gates, candles flickering like tiny flags. Her photo glows on posters. Maya in uniform, smiling, hand resting on her pregnant belly. Beneath it, the words, "She served." Who served her? That night, Daniel Harris walks through the Pentagon hallways with Colonel Cole. They stop at a memorial wall lined with gold stars. Cole gestures toward the wall. She belongs here. With them. Daniel's voice trembles. She shouldn't have to. Cole nods. I know. Then he adds, but sometimes the wall isn't for the fallen, it's for the living. To remember who failed them. Daniel runs a hand along the smooth marble surface. I don't want her to be a symbol, he says. Cole answers quietly, she already is. Meanwhile, in Georgia, protesters surround the precinct where Connor once worked. Chants rise into the night. Hands up means stop. She wore the uniform too. Inside his dark apartment, Connor watches from the window. His wife whispers, they're not stopping. He doesn't turn around. They shouldn't. His phone rings. Unknown number. He answers. Connor, says a stern voice. This is Colonel Cole, U.S. Army Command. We'll be in touch. Then the line clicks dead. Connor stares at the phone, and for the first time, he realizes what those words mean. The Army isn't asking, they're coming. In Washington, Holt sits alone in her office, staring at a single photo on her desk, Maya's file picture, smiling in uniform. She whispers to herself, you deserved better. Then she picks up the phone. Cole, begin the transfer of jurisdiction. I want him in federal custody by tomorrow morning. The rain returns that evening, harder this time, as if the sky itself refuses to let the streets forget. Inside the Atlanta Police Department, tension hangs heavier than the weather. Phones ring, doors slam, officers whisper in corners. Captain Elliot Graves locks himself in his office, blinds drawn. On his desk sits a stack of printed headlines. Pentagon takes control. Each one feels like a countdown. He dials a number. A voice answers. Deep, calm, too professional. Internal Affairs. Graves lowers his voice. We have to move the files now. Which ones? All of them. Harris case, Connor's personnel record, complaint logs, everything that links back. The voice hesitates. Captain, that's obstruction. Graves closes his eyes. It's survival. Downstairs, a young rookie named Luis Ramirez walks past the records room and notices two senior officers hauling boxes toward the back exit. Hey, he says, what's going on? One of them glares. Need to know, kid. You don't. Luis frowns. That's evidence storage. You can't just... The older man steps closer. Go home, rookie. Luis doesn't move. He reaches for his phone, pretending to text, but he's recording. The camera catches everything. Badges, boxes, timestamps. He tucks the phone away, heart pounding. He knows exactly where to send it. At the same hour, Colonel Cole and Secretary Holt sit in a Pentagon conference room lined with maps and monitors. Cole's phone buzzes. He glances at the message. An unknown number, a link attached. He clicks it. The video plays silently. Two officers loading evidence boxes into an unmarked van. The timestamp, tonight, 1942. The subject line reads, they're hiding something. Cole's expression hardens. He slides the phone across to Holt. She watches, then looks up. Get me that station on a secure line, now. Inside the precinct, Captain Graves' office phone rings. He answers, irritated. This isn't a good time. A voice replies, crisp, controlled. Captain Graves, this is Colonel Cole, U.S. Army Command. Put those boxes back where you found them. Graves' blood runs cold. How the hell? Because you're being live-streamed to federal channels right now, Cole interrupts. You have 10 minutes to comply. The line goes dead. Outside, thunder rumbles like judgment. Graves slams the phone down, breathing hard. He turns to his men. Bring them back. They hesitate. One mutters, "Sir, we'll all go down for this." Graves glares. "Then start digging your own graves if you don't." By midnight, Agent Elena Price, the military intelligence officer Holt dispatched, arrives at the precinct with a team. Her badge flashes silver under the flickering lights. She's young, sharp, and clearly not there for diplomacy. "Captain Graves," she says, stepping into his office, "I'm here for the files you didn't mean to lose." He forces a smile. "We're cooperating fully." "Good," she says. "Then you won't mind if we seize your servers." His smile fades. "You can't." Price holds up a signed order. "I can, and I will." Technicians flood in behind her, disconnecting hard drives, photographing every drawer. Graves sinks into his chair, defeated. Meanwhile, Brad Connor watches the scene unfold on television from his apartment. Reporters swarm the precinct. The anchor's voice is relentless. "Breaking news! Federal agents have entered the Atlanta Police Department amid allegations of evidence tampering in the Maya Harris shooting." His wife stands behind him, whispering, "They're saying your body cam footage is missing." Connor grips the armrest. "I turned it in." "Then why can't they find it?" He doesn't answer, because he remembers the captain's words that night. "Let's keep this clean, Brad." "You follow my lead." He'd handed the drive to Graves himself, and now it's gone. At 2 a.m., Price's team uncovers a hidden external drive labeled Training Archive. She plugs it in. Not training footage, body cam videos, dozens of them. Most unreported, most involving Officer Connor. Her pulse quickens as she scrolls. Minor incidents, excessive force, threats, all signed off by Captain Graves. And then, the last file. Maya Harris, Cam01.mp4. She opens it. The screen fills with rain and headlights. Connor's voice echoes through the speakers. "Step out of the vehicle." Then Maya's voice, calm, trembling. "I'm pregnant, I can show you my ID." Then the flash, then silence. But after the shot, there's more. Connor whispering, "Oh God, what did I do?" And Graves replying, "Keep quiet, we'll handle it." Price freezes the frame, eyes hardening. "There it is," she murmurs, "the cover-up." By dawn, the footage is on its way to Washington under armed escort. Cole watches from his office as the transfer confirmation flashes across his screen. He exhales, rubbing his temples. "Good work," Holt says from the doorway. He nods. "Ma'am, it's worse than negligence. It's coordination." "Then make it public," Holt replies. "Sunlight's the only disinfectant left." At sunrise, the news breaks again. Exclusive. Federal agents recover missing body cam footage in Harris case. Clips play on every screen. The command, the shot, the whispered attempt to bury it. The country stops. No one defends Connor anymore. No one defends Graves. Protests swell, not in anger this time, but in purpose. Signs read, "She spoke the truth, they tried to bury it," and as the crowd chants her name, Maya's silence becomes the loudest sound in America. Inside his cell, Connor watches the footage loop on the small TV bolted to the wall. His own voice echoes back at him, that last whisper. "Oh God, what did I do?" He closes his eyes. There's no answer, because the world already did. Morning sunlight spills into Brad Connor's apartment, but he hasn't slept. He's been sitting on the floor since 4 a.m., staring at the muted television that keeps replaying his own face. Every channel is the same. His voice, his shot, his whisper. What did I do? The entire nation has heard it now. The words loop in his head until they don't sound like words anymore, just a pulse, just guilt breathing. Down the hall, his wife Kelly packs a small suitcase. Their baby girl sleeps in her crib, unaware of the storm outside. "Where are you going?" Brad asks. Kelly doesn't look up. "To my sisters. They're camping outside our building, Brad. Reporters, protesters. I can't even go to the grocery store." He stands, exhausted, voice cracking. "I didn't mean to—" She cuts him off. "Stop saying that. It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what she was." Brad swallows hard. "I just want to explain." Kelly turns, tears in her eyes. "To who? The cameras? The Pentagon? There's no explaining what you did." She zips the suitcase, lifts the baby into her arms. As she passes him, she whispers, "I love the man who wore the uniform, not the man who hid behind it." The door closes softly, and with it, the last piece of his life leaves too. Outside, the world has moved on from shock to fury. Protesters flood downtown Atlanta, National Guard units are deployed to maintain order, but this time, their orders are to protect the protesters, not silence them. Signs rise like storm clouds. She served, he shot. Pregnant, unarmed, American. Every chant is her name. Every silence is his. News anchors speak of historic outrage, but the streets speak louder. Through voices, tears, and candles lit for a woman the country never met, but somehow feels it failed. At the Pentagon, Colonel Raymond Cole and Agent Elena Price brief Secretary Holt on the next steps. Holt's tone is clipped, precise. "I want Connor in custody by tonight. Military or civilian, I don't care which badge he wore. He's ours now." Cole nods. "Georgia PD will resist." "Then push them aside," Holt replies coldly. "They buried evidence. They lost the right to hold him." Price taps her tablet, pulling up the feed from overnight protests. "There's something else," she says. A crowd gathered outside Connor's apartment. No violence yet, but it's growing. Cole narrows his eyes. Then it's time. Back in Atlanta, two black SUVs pull up outside the apartment complex. Federal agents step out, armed and composed. The crowd instantly reacts. Shouts rise. Phones come out. The chant begins again. "Justice for Maya! Justice for Maya!" Brad peeks through the blinds. The noise hits him like a wall. He sees the agents at the door, badges flashing. He takes a step back. His breath quickens. The room feels smaller. The world feels closer. A knock. "Officer Connor, this is Special Agent Price. We need you to come with us." He doesn't move. The knocking gets louder. Then her voice. Steady, almost calm. "It's over, Brad. Open the door or we will." He turns toward the mirror. His reflection stares back. Tired, broken, unfamiliar. He whispers, "I was trained to act, not to think." Then he opens the door. Flashbulbs explode. The crowd roars. Agents move fast, shielding him from the screaming protesters as they escort him to the vehicle. Someone throws a cup. Another spits. A woman yells, "You shot a mother!" He flinches but doesn't look up. He can't. Inside the SUV, the world finally goes quiet. Agent Price sits beside him. Her voice is sharp, clinical. "You understand you're being charged with murder under federal jurisdiction?" He nods. She studies him. "You have the right to remain silent, but I don't think you've ever been good at silence." He stares straight ahead. "I tried to follow orders." She replies, "Whose?" He doesn't answer. Back at the Pentagon, Holt watches the live feed of his arrest. The image freezes on her screen. Connor being pushed into the vehicle, his head bowed, the same way every officer once made others bow. She mutters quietly, "This is what accountability looks like." Cole enters the room. The file's ready for transfer. Connor will arrive at Fort Bragg by nightfall. Holt nods. Good. The same soil she served on will see him judged. At sunset, the SUV crosses into the military base. Soldiers at the gate lower their eyes as it passes. A silent salute to Maya, a silent judgment for him. Inside, Connor is placed in a holding cell. Bare walls, one cot, no window. The air smells of metal and disinfectant. He sits on the cot, elbows on knees, hands clasped so tightly they tremble. Through the small vent above him, he hears faint sounds. The training field, soldiers chanting in cadence. Their voices rise and fall in rhythm, a song he used to respect. Now it sounds like a verdict. He presses his hands to his face and whispers, "They'll kill me." From the doorway, Agent Price's voice answers, "Maybe. Or maybe they'll let you live long enough to understand what you did." She closes the cell door behind her. The metallic click echoes like a gunshot in reverse, an ending, but also a beginning. That night, Daniel Harris receives a call. A male voice says simply, "He's in military custody now." Daniel doesn't ask who's calling. He doesn't need to. He sets his phone down, walks to Maya's photo on the wall and whispers, "They finally took him where you belonged." Fort Bragg wakes early. Drills echo through the morning fog. Boots hit the pavement in unison, a rhythm of discipline and purpose. Inside the detention wing, there's no rhythm, only silence. Officer Brad Connor sits on the narrow cot, head in his hands, listening to his own breathing like a man counting down the seconds to his end. The metal door opens with a hollow groan. Agent Elena Price steps inside, clipboard in hand. "Morning, Connor." He doesn't look up. "Don't call me that, not anymore." Price tilts her head. "Then what should I call you?" He shrugs weakly. "Whatever they call a mistake." She studies him for a moment before saying, The Pentagon wants your full statement by noon. You're cooperating, right? Connor gives a faint laugh. You already have everything. Price's eyes narrow. No, we don't. One of your precinct's external backups was corrupted. There was a second body cam recording, and it's missing. Connor looks up sharply. I don't know anything about that. Price steps closer, voice steady. Funny. Captain Graves said the same thing before we arrested him last night. Connor blinks. What? You didn't hear? Price says. He's in custody. Obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence, conspiracy. You're not the only one answering questions now. Connor's throat tightens. He remembers Graves's voice the night of the shooting. We'll handle it. Maybe he thought he would. Maybe he thought he could. But no one controls the truth forever. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, Colonel Raymond Cole watches the recovery team's live feed. Technicians in tactical uniforms comb through the burned-out remains of an old evidence locker in the Atlanta precinct's basement. Most drives are melted, useless, but one, marked Cam 02, survives. Cole leans closer to the screen. Get it to DC within the hour, he orders. The tech replies, yes, sir. Data looks intact. Cole turns to Secretary Holt. Ma'am, this might be it. The uncut angle. Holt's tone is ice. Then everyone will see it. At noon, Price returns to Connor's cell. She places a small tablet on the table between them. It's here, she says. What is? The missing footage. Connor's pulse quickens. I thought you said it was corrupted. It was, she replies. But not anymore. She hits play. The footage opens in grainy color. The same stormy night, the same flashing lights, but this time the angle is from the passenger side. Maya's face is clearer, her hands visible, her voice steady. Please, I'm pregnant. My husband's right behind us. Connor's voice off-screen. Step out of the vehicle! Maya takes a slow breath. She reaches to unbuckle her seatbelt. The sound of rain drowns her whisper, but the mic catches it anyway. I'm U.S. Army Medical. Don't shoot. Then the flash, the gunshot, the horn. But this time, the recording doesn't cut out. It keeps rolling. Connor leans forward in horror as his own voice fills the room. Oh God, she wasn't moving. Graves's voice answers, calm, calculated. Get the camera, now, we'll fix it. Maya's breathing is faint in the background. She isn't dead yet. She tries to speak. 2 words barely audible. Tell Daniel. Then nothing. The clip ends. Price stops the video. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Connor's eyes glisten, his voice barely a whisper. She was still alive? Yes, Price says. Long enough to say goodbye. He covers his face with his hands. They told me she died instantly. They told a lot of people that, Price replies coldly. But the camera doesn't lie. You do. Connor shakes his head violently. I didn't want to kill her. Price leans in. Then why did you shoot? He opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. Because he doesn't know anymore. Price stands. Your silence will be used against you. She picks up the tablet and walks to the door. As it closes behind her, Connor slams his fists against the table, shouting, Please, let me explain! But there's no one left to listen. That afternoon, Colonel Cole and Secretary Holt review the recovered video in Washington. They watch in silence. When the final 2 words play, Tell Daniel, Holt exhales slowly. She was conscious. Cole nods. And they let her die. Holt's face hardens. This isn't just murder, it's betrayal. She closes the laptop. Release it to the media. Unedited. Cole hesitates. Ma'am, it'll cause chaos. She meets his eyes. Good. Chaos means people are awake. By evening, the new footage hits every network. Anchors warn viewers before playing it, but people watch anyway. They always do. And this time, they don't just see the shooting. They hear her voice. They hear the words the world wasn't meant to hear. I'm U.S. Army Medical, don't shoot. And then, Tell Daniel. The sound cuts deeper than any image. Every living room in America falls silent. In his apartment, Daniel Harris watches the footage on his laptop, hands shaking. When he hears her voice again, his breath catches. He rewinds once, then again. He closes his eyes and whispers, I heard you, Maya. I heard you. He picks up her dog tags from the table, holds them tight in his fist, and for the first time since her death, he doesn't cry. He just nods slowly. Now they will too. At Fort Bragg, Connor lies on his cot, staring at the ceiling. Through the vents, he hears faint applause from somewhere in the distance, soldiers watching the video in their barracks, cheering not for vengeance, but for truth. He presses his palms to his ears, but it doesn't help. The sound isn't outside, it's inside him, echoing. And this time, it won't stop. By sunrise, the country is no longer mourning. It's burning. From Atlanta to Los Angeles, candlelight vigils have turned into rivers of people. Thousands flood the streets, holding signs with the same image. Maya Harris, smiling in uniform. Below it, one phrase repeats on every poster. She said, "Don't shoot." Helicopters hover overhead. News anchors use words like historic, unprecedented, revolutionary. But for the people in the streets, it's simpler than that. They're tired of watching good die quietly. At the Pentagon, Secretary Marjorie Holt stands before a podium draped in flags. She doesn't wait for the cameras to settle. Her tone is calm but razor sharp. 5 days ago, Captain Maya Harris, a U.S. Army medical officer, was shot and killed while unarmed, while pregnant, and while identifying herself as military personnel. She pauses, scanning the room. The footage recovered shows clear evidence of misconduct, suppression, and conspiracy. A flashbulb pops. She continues. This is not a political crisis. This is a moral one. The Pentagon stands with every citizen demanding accountability. The press room erupts with questions. One reporter shouts above the noise, "Madam Secretary, are you seeking the death penalty?" Holt meets his gaze. "We're seeking the truth, but if the truth leads there, we won't look away." Back at Fort Bragg, Agent Elena Price walks down the sterile hallway toward Connor's cell. The walls vibrate faintly with chants from soldiers watching the news in the mess hall. "Maya! Maya! Maya!" She stops at his door. Connor looks up. His eyes are red, sleepless, hollow. "They're chanting her name," Price says quietly. "Even the soldiers? All of them." He stares at the floor. "I used to think honor was a word for uniforms." Price crosses her arms. "It's not. It's what you do when no one's looking. And everyone was looking, Brad." He closes his eyes. "I can't undo it." "No," she says, "but you can tell them who told you to pull the trigger." He looks at her. A long, haunted look. Then he whispers, "Captain Graves. He said she might be armed. He told me to end it fast." Price nods once, writes it down, and without another word, leaves. As the door shuts, Connor's whisper follows her into the hall. I wanted to believe him. At noon, Colonel Raymond Cole enters Holt's office, his uniform immaculate but his face lined with exhaustion. "The statement worked," he says. "Public trust is swinging toward us, but Justice Department's furious. They say we're stepping over boundaries." Holt leans back in her chair. "Boundaries built to protect the guilty aren't worth keeping." Cole hesitates. "There's something else. Civilian protesters breached a local armory in Missouri last night. They're calling themselves the Maya Movement." Holt's expression darkens. This isn't what she would have wanted. "I know," Cole says, "but people don't follow the person. They follow the pain." In Atlanta, Daniel Harris stands at the center of a massive crowd outside City Hall. Microphones surround him. He's not a politician, not a preacher, just a husband who lost everything. He raises Maya's dog tags to the sky. "This," he says, voice breaking through the roar, "wasn't just a mistake. It was a message that even when we serve, we're still targets. But today, we send a new one." The crowd quiets, waiting. Daniel's voice steadies. "You can't silence someone whose last words were heard by millions." Applause breaks like thunder. Phones go up, flashes everywhere. Within minutes, his speech goes viral. Millions share it with one caption. "Tell Daniel we did." By evening, the president holds a televised address. He looks weary, older than the night before. "My fellow Americans," he begins, "what happened to Captain Maya Harris was not an isolated act. It was a mirror. And what we saw in it should shame us all." He pauses, staring into the camera. "The military court at Fort Bragg will take jurisdiction over the accused. A public trial will begin in 3 days." The nation collectively exhales. Justice, not promised, but finally possible. At Fort Bragg, Connor listens to the president's voice echo faintly from the hallway TV. He presses his palms to his temples. Every word feels like a nail in the coffin he built himself. He whispers to no one. 3 days. Agent Price enters quietly. "You'll be transferred to the main facility tomorrow." He nods, almost numb. I used to think fear was what kept me alive. What do you think now? She asks. He looks up at her, defeated. That fear was the thing killing me the whole time. Price doesn't respond. She closes the cell door behind her, the sound echoing through the corridor. Sharp, final. That night, a Pentagon transport jet lands quietly at Fort Bragg. Inside, Colonel Cole sits beside Holt, reviewing files under dim cabin lights. Holt asks, "Do you think justice will calm them?" Cole shakes his head. No, but maybe it'll teach them what calm really means. She looks out the window. The runway lights blur under the rain. Then let's start teaching. In the city, Daniel sits alone at his kitchen table, the crowd's chants still ringing faintly in his ears. He opens Maya's old notebook, the one she used for medical sketches. Inside, written in neat handwriting, "Healing isn't always gentle. Sometimes it has to hurt first." Daniel smiles faintly through tears. "She was right," he murmurs. Then he closes the book. The hurt has begun to heal. The rain hasn't stopped since Maya Harris died. 6 days of storm, 6 days of reckoning. At Fort Bragg, the military convoy waits at dawn. 2 armored vehicles, headlights cutting through mist. Inside the base detention wing, Brad Connor sits on his cot, wrists cuffed, eyes hollow. Agent Elena Price enters with a folder under her arm. "It's time." He doesn't respond. She studies him for a moment. "You know the world's watching this." He nods faintly. "They've been watching since the second I pulled the trigger." Outside, reporters crowd behind barriers near the gate. Rain drips from their umbrellas as they shout questions into the storm. "Officer Connor, any statement before the transfer? Do you regret it? Did your captain order you to shoot?" Connor doesn't answer. He steps into the armored vehicle, head down, the flash of cameras reflecting off his shackles. For a brief second, his face appears on every screen across the nation. The once proud officer now reduced to a symbol of everything broken. At the Pentagon, Secretary Marjorie Holt watches the live feed from her office. The silence is heavy even through the monitor. Colonel Raymond Cole stands beside her, arms folded. "It's strange," he says quietly, hearing people cheer for an arrest. Holt doesn't look away from the screen. "They're not cheering for him, Colonel. They're cheering because someone finally heard them." Meanwhile, in Atlanta, Daniel Harris sits with Maya's parents, the television flickering across their faces. His hands rest on the folded flag that once draped her coffin. When Connor's image appears, Maya's mother gasps, covering her mouth. Daniel whispers, "He's being moved to court. They'll hear her name again." Her father nods, eyes wet but proud. "Then make sure they never stop saying it." At 9 a.m., the convoy arrives at the federal courthouse in D.C., escorted by military police. Crowds fill every inch of the surrounding streets. Chants rise through the drizzle. "Maya! Maya! Justice for Maya!" For a moment, even the soldiers hesitate. The sound feels less like protest, more like prayer. Inside, the courtroom is already full. Journalists line the back wall, their cameras humming softly. In the front row, Daniel sits, silent, composed, Maya's dog tags wrapped around his wrist. When the doors open and Connor enters, the room exhales, a single collective breath. He walks slowly, escorted by 2 guards. His uniform has been replaced by a plain gray jumpsuit. No badge, no authority. Just the man behind the trigger. For a second, his eyes flick toward Daniel. They meet, briefly. Daniel's gaze doesn't waver. It's not hatred in his eyes, it's truth. The judge enters. All rise. Every person stands. Every camera clicks. The sound of rain against the courthouse windows is the only thing that dares to move. The judge's voice cuts through the silence. Case of the United States versus Officer Bradley Connor, charged with murder, obstruction, and federal conspiracy. How do you plead? Connor's voice cracks. Not guilty. The room erupts, reporters shouting, whispers spreading like wildfire. The judge bangs the gavel. Order! Order! Daniel lowers his head, jaw tightening. He expected remorse. Instead, he hears denial. Outside, protesters watch the hearing on giant screens. When they hear not guilty, a wave of outrage rolls through the crowd. Chants turn to shouts. Sirens wail in the distance. In the chaos, a soldier steps forward, holding a sign high above the others. She served. We serve. Justice must serve too. The image floods social media within minutes. It becomes the day's headline. The nation divided between guilt and denial. Back inside, Agent Price testifies first. She presents the recovered body cam footage, her tone steady, factual, relentless. Each second of the recording echoes through the courtroom. When the final two words play, "Tell Daniel," the entire room goes silent. Even the judge lowers his eyes. Daniel grips the bench so hard his knuckles turn white. His breathing trembles, but his voice doesn't. He whispers, "I heard you, Maya." The defense attorney stands. "Your Honor, my client acted under perceived threat." Price cuts in. "She was unarmed. He had the training. He had the choice." Connor's eyes flick to her, but she doesn't look back. The judge speaks softly. "Mr. Connor, we'll reconvene for sentencing deliberations tomorrow morning. You'll be remanded to federal custody overnight." The gavel falls. The session ends. As the guards lead him out, Connor looks one last time at Daniel. Their eyes lock again. The man who pulled the trigger and the man who lost everything to it. Daniel whispers, "You'll hear her voice forever." Connor opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. The guards push him through the side door, and the crowd outside erupts again. That night, news anchors describe it as the loudest silence in American court history. Every outlet replays the moment, Maya's voice, Daniel's whisper, and Connor's empty eyes. In every home, people sit quietly, feeling something they haven't felt in years, justice beginning to breathe. Back in her office, Secretary Holt signs the final order. The title reads, "Military Tribunal Authorization, Case Harris." She hands it to Colonel Cole. "Tomorrow morning," she says, "it won't just be a hearing, it'll be history." Cole nods. "Yes, ma'am, and this time, everyone will listen." Outside, lightning flashes across the sky, followed by a low roll of thunder, as if the heavens themselves are ready to testify. The courtroom smells of rain and paper. Outside, 1,000 voices chant Maya Harris's name. Inside, silence cuts sharper than sound. The air feels heavier today. Even the judge seems aware that history is in the room. "Military Tribunal Case Number 112, the clerk announces. "United States versus Officer Bradley Connor." The gavel falls once. The trial begins. Connor sits between his two lawyers, one military, one civilian. He looks smaller today, like a man who's realized that no uniform, no badge, no excuse can make him tall again. Agent Elena Price sits at the prosecution's table, papers neatly stacked, expression unreadable. To her right, Colonel Raymond Cole watches closely. The Army isn't just seeking justice. It's defending its honor. The first witness called is Daniel Harris. He walks to the stand slowly, carrying Maya's dog tags in his hand. The courtroom falls silent. The prosecutor steps forward. "Mr. Harris, can you tell the court who Maya Harris was?" Daniel takes a breath. "She was my wife," he says softly, "and a captain in the United States Army. She saved lives for a living. That's all she ever wanted to do." The lawyer nods. "Where were you the night she was killed?" "I was behind her car," Daniel replies. "They pulled us over. She told me to stay calm." His voice shakes now. "I saw the lights flash. I saw her hands go up. And then I saw her fall." The courtroom is silent except for the faint hum of the rain. Daniel looks toward Connor. For the first time, their eyes meet. Daniel's voice hardens. "She said she was Army. She begged him not to shoot. He did anyway." Connor's jaw trembles. His lawyer whispers something, but he doesn't answer. The defense attorney rises. "Mr. Harris," he says gently, "you understand that my client believed your wife was reaching for a weapon?" Daniel turns his head slowly, his stare sharp enough to make the man falter. "She was reaching for her ID. It said U.S. Army Medical Division." The lawyer looks down. No further questions. Next, Agent Price takes the stand. She plays the final recovered footage for the court. The lights dim. Maya's voice fills the room. "I'm U.S. Army Medical. Don't shoot." Then the gunshot. Then silence. Then Connor's whisper, "Oh God, what did I do?" When the lights return, several people in the audience are crying. Even the judge looks pale. Price speaks clearly. After this footage was recorded, Captain Graves ordered the data erased. Officer Connor complied. He only turned himself in after the video leaked publicly. The defense attorney objects. "My client was following orders." Price doesn't even blink. So was Maya Harris. The room falls into stunned quiet. No one speaks for several seconds. The judge simply nods. "Proceed." Later, Colonel Cole takes the stand as a military witness. His uniform is perfect, but his eyes are tired. He testifies to Maya's record: 12 years of service, commendations, medical deployments. She was the kind of soldier you wish you had 1,000 of, he says. She could patch a wound in a sandstorm and still ask how the patient felt. When asked how he reacted to the footage, his answer is simple. I didn't feel anger, he says. I felt shame. The courtroom holds its breath again. Cole looks directly at Connor. You killed someone who would have saved you if you'd asked. Connor lowers his head. His hands shake. At noon, the judge calls for a recess. Reporters rush to file updates. Outside, the protest has doubled in size. Veterans now stand shoulder to shoulder with civilians, all holding candles even under the daylight drizzle. A news anchor's voice carries over the crowd. The trial of Officer Connor has officially become the most watched case in the country. Inside a small side room, Connor sits across from his lawyer, his hands trembling. They hate me, he mutters. His lawyer sighs. They don't know you. They just know what you did. Connor looks up, eyes wet. I didn't want to shoot her. Then why did you? Connor doesn't answer. He just whispers, she looks scared. And I thought fear meant danger. The lawyer stares at him for a long moment. That's what you were taught. Connor nods slowly. It's what I believed. The session resumes. The final witness is Captain Elliot Graves, escorted in chains. The man looks older now, sweat beading on his forehead. Price steps forward. Captain Graves, did you instruct Officer Connor to fire his weapon? Graves shakes his head. I told him to be ready. He acted on instinct. Instinct or order? Graves hesitates. The courtroom waits. Finally, he says, I told him to end it fast. Gasps fill the room. Price presses further. And afterward? I told him to hand me the camera. Why? Graves's voice drops to a whisper. Because we'd been told to keep numbers low. No more headlines about race. No more heat. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. The judge slams the gavel. Order in the court. Graves exhales. You wanted the truth, he mutters. Now you've got it. As he's escorted out, Connor watches him go. The man he once obeyed, now just another prisoner. The judge calls for adjournment. Court will reconvene tomorrow for closing statements and sentencing. The gavel falls again. The day ends. Outside, the rain finally stops. The crowd erupts into chants of Maya's name once more. Inside, Daniel steps out of the courthouse, his face calm, his voice steady. Reporters rush to him. Do you feel justice is close? Daniel glances toward the gray sky. It's closer than it's ever been, but she deserved more than close. He turns, walking away as the flashbulbs chase him into the mist. Behind him, the courthouse bells begin to ring. Low, slow, like the sound of a heartbeat finding its rhythm again. The sky over Washington is gray and heavy, as if the clouds themselves are waiting for an answer. By dawn, people are already lined up outside the courthouse. Veterans in uniform, mothers holding photos, crowds wrapped in raincoats clutching candles from the night before. No one speaks loudly. Even the journalists whisper, this is not a morning for noise. Inside, the courtroom is packed, every seat filled, every eye on the bench. The judge enters, her steps slow, deliberate. She doesn't need to call for silence. The silence is already there, thick, unbroken, alive. Court is now in session for final statements, she says. Her voice carries through the room like a bell. The prosecution stands first. Agent Elena Price walks to the center, the weight of the case visible in her eyes. Captain Maya Harris served this country for 12 years, she begins. She healed soldiers in war zones, saved civilians in disasters, and believed every life was worth her time. She pauses, glancing toward the defense table. Until the night she met a man who didn't see a life. Only a threat. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Price continues. This was not a mistake of judgment. It was the product of indifference. A man with power forgot what that power was for. She turns toward the jury. Today, justice has a chance to remember. Then she sits, hands steady, expression calm. The defense attorney rises slowly. His suit looks too big for him now. He clears his throat. My client acted in fear. He did not wake up intending to harm anyone. He reacted? Wrongly, yes, but under pressure, under panic. He gestures to Connor, who sits motionless. He has lost his career, his family, his name. There is no victory here, only lessons. His voice drops. If this court believes in mercy, let it begin where judgment ends. He sits down quietly. The room exhales. The judge looks at Connor. Defendant, Do you wish to speak before the verdict is delivered? Connor stands. His chains rattle softly, a metallic echo against marble floors. He turns toward Daniel Harris in the front row. I used to think justice was for people like me, he says. People in uniform. But I was wrong. He takes a shaky breath. I killed someone who was everything I pretended to be. Brave, calm, honorable. And I can't fix that. But I can say her name. He looks down. Maya Harris. Daniel's eyes close, a tear slipping down his cheek. The judge nods once. Thank you, Mr. Connor. Please sit. The jurors file back into the room after 3 hours of deliberation. Every camera turns. Every heart beats faster. The foreperson stands. On the charge of first-degree murder, we find the defendant. A pause. The longest second of the year. Guilty. The word echoes like thunder. The gallery gasps, then bursts into quiet sobs. Whispers, prayers. No cheers, no applause, just relief. The judge bangs her gavel. Order, order in the court. She steadies her voice. Sentencing will be determined tomorrow by military review. This court stands adjourned. The gavel falls again. Outside, the crowd hears the news within seconds. Phones buzz, screens light up, and a ripple moves through the people like wind through wheat. Then, applause. Not loud, not wild. Just steady, rhythmic clapping. A nation exhaling. Veterans remove their caps. Mothers hold their children closer. And in the middle of it all, Maya's photo is lifted high, raindrops streaking down the laminated image like tears that the country finally allowed itself to cry. Inside, Daniel sits motionless. He doesn't smile. He doesn't cry. He just looks at Connor being led away in cuffs. As they pass, Connor glances at him. There's no hatred between them anymore. Only recognition. Daniel stands. He walks forward and whispers, "She forgave people for mistakes every day. I can't, but I understand." Connor nods once, eyes wet, then disappears through the door. At the Pentagon, Secretary Holt receives the message. Verdict, guilty. She sets the phone down gently, staring out the window at the storm. Colonel Cole enters. It's done. Holt nods. Justice isn't done, she replies. It's just started moving again. That night, across the country, cities glow with candlelight. Not protests this time, vigils. Everywhere people stand together. Soldiers, civilians, strangers. Maya's name echoes softly from speakerphones and church bells. For the first time in years, the sound of justice doesn't come from sirens or shouts. It comes from silence, collective, united silence. In his apartment, Daniel turns off the TV. He opens Maya's notebook again, tracing her handwriting with his fingertips. Even light can break through a wound. He smiles faintly. Outside, thunder rolls in the distance. Not angry this time, just alive. He looks toward the sky. Justice found you, Maya, he whispers. But it changed all of us on its way. He closes the notebook, and for the first time since that night, he sleeps. The 9th morning dawns gray and still. No crowds yet, no chants, no rain. Just the heavy calm that comes before another storm. Inside the courthouse, lights flicker on one by one. Security tightens. Reporters whisper into microphones, their voices trembling with anticipation. This is the day. The day the nation learns how justice breathes. In the holding cell below the courtroom, Brad Connor sits alone. He hasn't touched his breakfast. He stares at the wall, at the faint shadow of bars stretching across the floor like crosses. His lawyer enters quietly. Brad, he says, you should stand when they read it. Connor nods, voice barely audible. Will it matter? The lawyer hesitates. To them, yes. At 9 a.m., the judge enters the chamber. Every seat is filled again. Same faces, same eyes, but now something different lingers in the air. Expectation. The clerk stands. Case of the United States versus Officer Bradley Connor. Sentencing hearing. The gavel falls once. The sound echoes. It feels final. Secretary Marjorie Holt and Colonel Raymond Cole watch from a reserved gallery row. They don't speak. They don't need to. This is the moment their silence worked for. Agent Elena Price stands by the prosecution table, posture perfect, but her jaw tightens every few seconds, because she knows even a guilty verdict can be softened by power. The judge begins. Before sentencing, I will hear statements from both sides. The defense attorney rises first. He looks tired, smaller than yesterday. Your Honor, he begins, my client accepts the verdict. He understands the gravity of what happened. He glances at Connor. This man is not a monster. He's a product of training that taught him fear before thought. He spreads his hands. Justice should not only punish, it should correct. If we execute every failure, we learn nothing. He sits down. The room remains still. Then Price stands. Her voice is clear, steady, and sharp enough to slice through air. Captain Maya Harris did everything right. She followed orders, she identified herself, she surrendered, and she still died. She walks toward the jury box. Her death was not an accident. It was a warning ignored, a lesson unlearned. The world saw her die, and it changed because of it. She turns to the judge. Your Honor, mercy should belong to those who show remorse, but justice belongs to those who can no longer speak. Then, softer, today, justice speaks for her. She sits. The courtroom doesn't move. No coughs, no whispers, only the faint hum of the lights above them. The judge looks down at the papers before her. The rustle sounds like thunder in the silence. Officer Bradley Connor, she begins, this court has weighed every testimony, every recording, every truth uncovered. She pauses. The Defense Department has formally requested that sentencing be carried out under military authority given the victim's active duty status. Murmurs ripple through the room. Connor's lawyer stiffens. The judge continues. This court agrees. The sentence will be executed under federal military law. A flash of lightning outside the window. Reporters type faster. Cameras click louder. But everyone still waits for the last word. Connor stands as ordered. His hands tremble. The judge reads, for the murder of Captain Maya Harris, this court sentences you to death by lethal injection. The words hit the air like an explosion no one hears. No cheers, no applause, only silence so deep it feels sacred. Daniel Harris exhales, a sound halfway between pain and relief. Maya's parents embrace quietly, their tears hidden behind folded hands. The judge continues. Execution date will be set by military order within 10 days. Court is adjourned. The gavel falls for the last time. Connor's knees almost buckle as the guards step forward. He whispers something, and too soft to hear. One guard hesitates. What was that? Connor looks up. Tell her, I wish it had been me instead. The guard doesn't respond. He just takes his arm and leads him away. Outside, word spreads within minutes. Officer sentenced to death. The headline burns across every screen, every phone, every heart. Crowds fill the streets again, but this time there are no signs, no chants, only silence. A quiet 1,000 strong. People light candles along the courthouse steps. They don't cry, they just stand, together. At the Pentagon, Secretary Holt listens to the news report. Colonel Cole stands beside her, arms behind his back. He breaks the silence first. It's done. Holt nods slowly. Justice doesn't end with punishment, Colonel. It ends when we stop needing moments like this. Cole glances toward the window. Outside, the flag ripples in the wind. Maybe this time we'll remember. That night, Daniel returns home to a quiet apartment. Maya's uniform still hangs where it always did. He lights a candle beneath it. The flame flickers against her photo. He whispers, they said it. They said your name in court. He looks toward the empty chair beside the table. I don't know if I believe in peace, Maya, but I think I believe in this. He sits, hands folded, as the candle burns low, its last light dancing against the metal she earned, and the silence she left behind. In his cell, Connor lies awake. The sound of footsteps passes outside his door. He closes his eyes and whispers one last time, Maya Harris. Somewhere, maybe in a place he'll never see, the name still carries. Through halls, through hearts, through the country she died for. And for the first time, he doesn't feel fear when he says it. He feels the truth. Fort Bragg, 6:12 a.m. The air outside is cold enough to bite. Inside the detention block, a single light burns over Brad Connor's cell. He hasn't slept. He hasn't prayed. He just sits, waiting for the sound of footsteps that will mean it's time. But instead of guards, he hears a knock. The door opens. Agent Elena Price steps inside. She doesn't carry a folder this time, just a small recorder. Morning, Connor, she says quietly. He doesn't look up. Is this where you tell me it's over? Not yet, she replies. There's something you need to tell us first. He finally raises his head. Why? You already have the verdict. What difference does it make? Price leans forward. Because you didn't do it alone. He blinks. I pulled the trigger. Yes, she says. But who trained you to shoot before thinking? Who taught you to see fear instead of faces? Connor's jaw tightens. He looks away. I don't know their names, I just followed orders. Whose? Captain Graves? Price shakes her head. Graves was a pawn like you. We traced funding for your precinct's rapid response program. Do you know who signed those checks? Connor frowns, confused. She continues. A private defense contractor, Talon Industries. They supplied your body cams, your training manuals, your equipment, and their board of directors includes 3 sitting Pentagon contractors. He stares at her. What are you saying? I'm saying someone paid for your fear, she replies coldly. They wanted quick hands and quiet consciences, and you gave them both. He laughs bitterly. So now I'm a puppet. You always were, Price says. But puppets can still tell the truth. She sets the recorder on the table. Start from the beginning. Who approached you about joining the new initiative? Connor hesitates. Then he speaks. It was Graves. He said we were part of a pilot program. De-escalation through dominance, he called it. We'd get bonuses for fast responses, no hesitation. He exhales shakily. They told us hesitation gets people killed. I believe them. Price nods. And after the shooting? He came to my apartment, told me to hand over the camera, said command would handle it. His eyes glaze over. They didn't handle it. They buried it. And I helped them dig the hole. Price sits back. For a moment, the only sound is the hum of the light above them. Then she says, you can still help stop them. Connor chuckles dryly. I'm a dead man agent. Who listens to ghosts? People who need to hear the truth, she says. He studies her face, searching for something. Pity, maybe. But there's none. Only resolve. Finally, he nods slowly. Fine. I'll tell you everything. 2 hours later, Colonel Raymond Cole joins Price in the observation room. The recorder blinks red inside the cell. Connor's voice plays through the speakers. They called it Operation Safe Zone, a program designed to minimize threats in high-risk neighborhoods. But it wasn't about safety. It was about control. Cole's face hardens. He leans toward the glass. Jesus Christ, he mutters. Price folds her arms. They created fear so they could sell protection. The tape continues. We weren't trained to ask questions, just to act first, explain later. They said hesitation was weakness, that hesitation got officers killed. Connor's voice breaks. But Maya wasn't a threat. She was the hesitation I was supposed to kill. Cole steps back from the glass, shaken. We need this at the Pentagon, he says. Price nods. I'll deliver it myself. He studies her for a moment. Do you believe him? Yes, she says, because it sounds too ugly not to be true. In the cell, Connor sits motionless after the recorder clicks off. Price re-enters, holding her coat. You did the right thing, she says. He smirks faintly. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, she says softly. It's supposed to make your last day mean something. She leaves. The door closes behind her with a slow, final clang. Connor whispers into the silence, Maya, I told them. For a second, it feels lighter in the room, as if the air itself exhaled. At the Pentagon, Secretary Holt listens to the recording in her office. Her knuckles whiten as she grips her pen. When it ends, she looks to Cole. How deep does this go? Cole sighs. Too deep. Talon Industries has contracts across 20 states. They trained half our departments. Holt leans back. Then this doesn't end with one execution. She stands, her voice steady. It ends with exposure. Cole nods. Do we go public? She looks out the window at the rows of flags waving in the wind. Not yet. Let's clean our own house first. That night, Price returns to her apartment exhausted. Her phone buzzes. A text from Cole. He's gone. She sits on her couch, staring at the message. Connor's words echo in her head. They paid for my fear. She closes her eyes and whispers, then we'll make them pay for their silence. Meanwhile, in Daniel Harris's apartment, the phone rings once. An unknown number. He answers. A voice on the other end says, Mr. Harris, this is Colonel Cole. Before his execution, Officer Connor gave a full confession. He named those who made him. Daniel doesn't speak for several seconds. When he finally does, his voice is calm. Then maybe she didn't die for nothing. Cole replies quietly, "No, sir. She changed everything." In the cell now empty, the recorder's red light still blinks faintly, capturing nothing but silence, the sound of a man's fear becoming truth and a system finally hearing itself. It begins with a file name. Project Safe Zone, Confidential. At 3:42 a.m., someone inside the Pentagon uploads it to an encrypted cloud. At 3:45, it's gone. Duplicated, scattered, unstoppable. By dawn, the world has it. Newsrooms explode before sunrise. Emails flood inboxes with one headline: Government-linked contractor behind police shootings. Inside CNN headquarters, anchors rehearse their lines in disbelief. Leaked documents reveal a federal contractor funded police aggression training under the name Operation Safe Zone. Producers whisper, "This came from inside the Pentagon." Phones ring non-stop. The words "military cover-up" hit the airwaves like gunfire. At 6 a.m., Secretary Marjorie Holt storms into the Pentagon Situation Room. Her aides scatter out of her path. "Who leaked it?" she demands. No one answers. Colonel Raymond Cole stands by the screen displaying endless copies of the file spreading across servers. "Ma'am, it's everywhere. Even if we shut down one source, 10 more appear." Holt slams her hand on the table. "Find out who, now!" Cole looks grim. "With respect, ma'am, maybe we shouldn't." She turns sharply. "What are you implying?" He meets her gaze. Maybe this needed to happen. Meanwhile, in a quiet apartment in D.C., Agent Elena Price watches the morning news alone. She's still in yesterday's clothes, dark circles under her eyes. The anchor's voice plays softly. According to the leaked files, Operation Safe Zone was created under the guise of officer safety, but instead promoted rapid suppression techniques. A picture of Maya flashes on the screen. Then a quote from Connor's confession, "They paid for my fear." Price closes her eyes. A small smile flickers. She whispers, "Goodbye, Brad." By mid-morning, the country erupts. Protests reignite, not with anger but with purpose. Placards rise above the crowds. Justice isn't a headline. End Safe Zone. She warned them. Veterans march beside civilians, doctors beside teachers. The same chant fills the streets again, not of grief but of unity. Maya, Maya, Maya. For the first time, it sounds like hope. At the Pentagon, chaos grows. Reporters swarm the front gates, demanding answers. Inside, Holt faces the press. Cameras flash, questions fire like bullets. "Madam Secretary, did you know about Operation Safe Zone?" "No." "Was it connected to the Harris shooting?" "Yes." The room goes silent. She exhales slowly. The death of Captain Maya Harris exposed more than misconduct. It exposed rot. That stops today. Flashbulbs explode again. "Are you resigning, Madam Secretary?" She hesitates. "No, I'm staying, to finish cleaning what we allowed to fester." That same morning, Daniel Harris sits on his couch watching the broadcast. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. The truth is finally public. Not whispered, not debated, not doubted. He looks at Maya's photo on the wall and whispers, "They know, baby. The whole world knows." He stands, walks to the window. Below, people are gathering. Neighbors, strangers, faces he's never seen. They're lighting candles again, not out of mourning, but solidarity. For the first time in 11 days, Daniel opens the door and steps outside. Someone hands him a candle. He takes it, and as the flame flickers, he feels the weight of silence turning into strength. At noon, Colonel Cole meets Price in the Pentagon courtyard. Neither speaks for a moment. Finally, Cole says, "You leaked it, didn't you?" Price doesn't deny it. "I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because the truth doesn't belong in vaults." Cole studies her face. "You realize what you've done?" "Yes," she says softly. "I made sure Maya Harris can't be buried twice." He sighs. "You'll lose your career." "I can live with that," she replies, "because now everyone else has to live with the truth." She starts to walk away. Cole calls after her. "You think this will fix it?" She stops, turns back. "No, but it's the first time it's broken in the right direction." By evening, the leak reaches the international stage. European and Asian outlets pick it up, headlines flashing across global networks. U.S. military contractor exposed in police violence scandal. World leaders issue statements. Markets dip. Trust collapses. But in the streets, something different happens. People begin talking to each other instead of about each other. In schools, teachers replay Maya's last words in civics lessons. In police academies, instructors pause videos mid-lecture and say, "This is where we went wrong." For the first time, education replaces fear. That night, Holt sits alone in her office, the glow of the city below her. Cole enters quietly. "The president called. He's ordering a full congressional investigation." Holt nods, her voice low. "Then maybe we'll finally prove justice isn't just punishment." She looks down at the file still open on her desk, the same file that started it all. Across the top, the name Safe Zone is crossed out. Below it, in her own handwriting, she writes, "Harris Doctrine, Accountability Through Awareness." Cole glances at it and smiles faintly. "She'd like that." Holt nods. Yes, she would. At midnight, Daniel returns home, exhausted but lighter. He sits by the window with his candle still burning. Outside, rain begins again. Soft this time, almost gentle. He whispers, "They finally heard you, Maya." The candle flickers, and for a second the reflection of the flame dances across her photo, like a heartbeat coming back to life. The 12th morning rises over a city that hasn't slept. For the first time in days, the air feels still. Not silent, not peaceful, but aware. Every screen in America glows with the same image, the Pentagon seal, and beneath it, the words, "Live Press Conference." Reporters fill the briefing room, cameras crowding shoulder to shoulder. They know this isn't just a statement, it's a reckoning. Secretary Marjorie Holt steps up to the podium. Her face looks older than last week, eyes heavy, voice steady. The murmur fades. Even the cameras stop clicking. "Good morning," she begins. Her tone is measured, but her hands tremble slightly as she grips the edges of the stand. 11 days ago, Captain Maya Harris was murdered during a routine traffic stop. Since then, this nation has witnessed truth in its rawest form. Not through rumors, not through politics, but through the voice of one woman who never raised it in anger. Only in plea. She pauses. The silence feels like a held breath. The files revealed this week confirm systemic negligence under Operation Safe Zone, a program born from fear and funded through greed. That program is now terminated, effective immediately. A wave of flashes. Reporters shout questions, but Holt raises her hand. "We can't undo what we allowed, but we can define what follows." Her tone sharpens. Effective today, the Pentagon will initiate the Harris Doctrine, a national reform that integrates military ethics into civilian law enforcement training. Every officer will be retrained to value life above authority. The crowd stirs. One reporter yells, "Is this justice, Madam Secretary?" Holt looks directly into the camera. "Justice isn't what we say in moments like this. It's what we remember when the cameras are gone." At home, Daniel Harris watches the broadcast on his living room TV. He's not alone. Neighbors have crowded into his small apartment, sitting shoulder to shoulder in quiet solidarity. No one speaks. They just listen. When Holt says the Harris Doctrine, Daniel's breath catches. He looks at Maya's picture on the wall and whispers, "They named it after you." A woman beside him wipes her eyes. "She changed the country," she murmurs. Daniel shakes his head softly. "She changed us." Meanwhile, in the Pentagon's upper hallway, Colonel Raymond Cole and Agent Elena Price stand by a window overlooking the press courtyard. From above, the crowd looks like a single living thing, moving, breathing, unified. Cole crosses his arms. "She did it," he says quietly. Price nods. "Maya did it, not us." Cole glances at her. "You leaked it." She doesn't deny it. "I pushed it, but it was already unstoppable. You can't contain truth once people decide they deserve it." He smiles faintly. "For a woman who broke protocol, you sure fixed a lot." She replies, "Protocol doesn't heal people. It just delays justice." Later that afternoon, the president addresses the nation. His speech is brief, somber. To Captain Harris, to her family, and to every citizen who believed silence could never be heard, you proved us wrong. The United States government apologizes, and we commit to rebuilding the trust we lost. He places a medal on an empty podium beside him. The Medal of Honor, awarded posthumously to Captain Maya Harris. The applause is quiet, respectful. Across the country, people stand up in their living rooms, not out of nationalism, out of gratitude. At Fort Bragg, soldiers gather in the courtyard under light drizzle. Colonel Cole reads the same speech aloud for those on base. The wind carries his words across the field. Her courage was not in battle, but in restraint. Her strength was not in command, but in compassion. She showed us that silence is not surrender. The soldiers remove their caps. A single trumpet plays in the distance, soft, aching. Somewhere among them, one young recruit whispers, "I want to serve like her." At sunset, Daniel stands before the new memorial unveiled outside the Pentagon. A bronze statue of Maya, standing tall in her scrubs and uniform, one hand extended, open, not closed. Beneath it, engraved words read, "She spoke softly, and the world listened." Daniel runs his hand over the letters. For the first time since that night, he doesn't feel anger. Only peace, sharp, unfamiliar, real. A reporter approaches. "Mr. Harris," she says quietly, "do you think justice was done?" Daniel looks at the statue, at the flame beside it that never goes out. He answers, "Justice doesn't end with a sentence. It begins when people remember who they're fighting for." The reporter lowers her microphone. She doesn't ask again. Later that night, Holt and Cole return to the now empty press hall. Stacks of files litter the desks. Safe zone contracts, investigation notes, testimonies. Cole asks, "What happens next?" Holt replies, "We rebuild. Slowly, painfully, properly." He nods. "And the ones who funded it?" "Already being arrested," she says. "No one is untouchable anymore." She closes a folder labeled Harris Case, complete, but she hesitates before sealing it. Cole notices. "Second thoughts?" Holt shakes her head. "No, just gratitude, that she made us better than we were." As night deepens, the city hums quietly. The lights of the Pentagon reflect on wet pavement, glowing gold, calm, unbroken. In Daniel's apartment, the candle he lit days ago still burns on the windowsill. Its flame dances in rhythm with the heartbeat of a country that finally learned to listen. Outside, the wind carries a whisper, almost like a voice. "Tell Daniel." He looks up, eyes wet but smiling. "I heard you, Maya," he says softly. And so did they. The 13th dawn arrives quietly. No rain, no wind. Just the kind of stillness that makes every sound matter. Inside Fort Bragg Federal Detention, the hallway lights hum to life. Footsteps echo softly, measured, deliberate. Today is the day. In his cell, Brad Connor sits on the edge of his cot, wearing the same gray jumpsuit. He hasn't spoken since yesterday. The priest waits beside him, holding a small Bible. "Would you like to pray?" the priest asks. Connor shakes his head. "I've said enough words in my life. None of them helped." The priest studies him, then says quietly, "Sometimes silence is prayer too." Connor looks up at the cell window above his bed, the faint orange light of morning leaking through. "It's strange," he murmurs. "The world finally found peace, and I'm the only one who can't feel it." At 8 a.m., Agent Elena Price signs the final clearance form. Her face is calm, but her fingers hesitate on the paper. The guard beside her says, "You don't have to witness it." She replies, "Yes, I do. I need to know it ends." Across the city, Daniel Harris wakes early. The candle on his table is still burning, melted down to its last inch. He doesn't turn on the TV. He doesn't need to. He knows what day it is. He walks to Maya's uniform, still hanging by the wall, and adjusts the sleeve like he used to before she went to work. "Today's the day," he whispers. "Maybe after this, you can finally rest." But his voice cracks at the word rest, because he knows rest isn't what he really wants. He wants her back. He wants one more morning where the light hit her face instead of a flag. He sits on the couch, hands clasped, and waits. At Fort Bragg, the guards escort Connor down a narrow corridor toward the execution chamber. Each step feels heavier than the last. The sound of chains dragging follows him, not loud but constant. Every click echoes against the walls like time running out. They stop outside a steel door. One of the guards hesitates, looking at him. "Do you have any last words you want read?" Connor shakes his head. "No words left, just truth." Inside the chamber, the light is sterile, white, almost kind. A single observation window faces the bed. Behind it, 5 witnesses stand. A priest, a lawyer, 2 officials, and Agent Price. Connor lies down. The straps tighten around his wrists. He stares at the ceiling where the fluorescent light hums faintly. A nurse checks the IV line, professional and detached. Connor's lips tremble. "Did they tell Daniel?" Price's voice comes through the intercom. "Yes, he knows." Connor nods once, his throat tight. "Good." He swallows hard. "I never wanted to be remembered for what I did, just for what I admitted. Price doesn't answer. There's nothing left to say. The warden steps forward. Final statement? Connor closes his eyes. His voice is soft, barely above a whisper. I was wrong. Fear isn't protection. It's poison. He opens his eyes one last time, looking toward the window. To Captain Maya Harris. I hope the world she left behind forgives where I couldn't. The warden nods to the technician. The IV valve turns. Clear liquid drips down the tube. Slow, steady, final. Connor exhales. Once, then again. His chest rises one last time and stops. The monitor flatlines. A single tone hums through the room, long and unbroken. Price watches until the sound fades, then quietly turns away. At that exact moment, Daniel feels the candle's flame flicker out. The room fills with soft smoke, and something, not peace, but stillness, settles in his chest. He closes his eyes and whispers, "It's over." Outside his window, people begin to gather again, lighting new candles. But this time, they don't chant. They don't shout. They just stand together in quiet unity. For the first time, justice doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like balance. At the Pentagon, Secretary Holt receives the final report. Execution completed, 9:17 a.m. She reads it once, then folds the page neatly. Close the file, she says. But keep the name. Cole looks at her, confused. The name? Maya's, she says softly. She deserves to live where policies are written, not buried under them. In her office, Agent Price removes her badge and places it in a drawer. Her phone buzzes, a message from Daniel. Just 3 words. Thank you, Elena. She exhales deeply, looking at her reflection in the dark window. I didn't do it for you, she murmurs. I did it for her. She closes her eyes. For the first time in years, the silence feels right. That evening, the sun dips low over D.C., coloring the streets gold and amber. At the base of Maya's memorial, someone leaves a folded note. The handwriting is careful, heavy, unmistakably Connor's. I was blind. She made me see. Let her light outlive my shadow. No one knows who placed it there. No one moves it. It stays, fluttering gently against the statue's bronze feet until the wind carries it away, like a soul released. 15 days. That's all it took for one life to shake an entire nation. The city looks different now. The streets are calmer. The air feels lighter, not because everything's fixed, but because people have finally stopped pretending it was fine. Everywhere you go, her name lingers. Maya Harris. Not a headline anymore, but a heartbeat that the country refuses to let fade. On the steps of the Capitol, a bronze plaque is being unveiled. Crowds gather in quiet reverence as the tarp falls away. The inscription reads, "For every voice silenced by fear, and every truth born from it." Below it, in smaller letters, Captain Maya L. Harris, U.S. Army Medical Division, 1989 to 2025. Reporters capture the moment, but for once, no one shouts questions. They just record the silence, a silence filled with respect. In the front row stands Daniel Harris, hands clasped, head bowed. He's not crying anymore. He doesn't need to. Next to him, Secretary Marjorie Holt gives a small nod. When the cameras turn away, she leans toward Daniel and says quietly, "We built something new because of her." Daniel glances at her. "You built something. She rebuilt everyone else." Holt smiles faintly. "That's why it will last." Across the country, in police academies, in classrooms, in courtrooms, officers recite a new pledge. I will serve without fear. I will protect without bias. I will remember the cost of forgetting. It's called the Harris Oath, and every recruit says her name before they begin. Meanwhile, Agent Elena Price has left the Pentagon. Her badge sits in a drawer somewhere she'll never open again. Now she teaches at Georgetown University, a class called Ethics and Enforcement. On her first day, she writes 3 words on the board. Maya taught us. The students fall silent, some too young to remember the case, but all aware they're standing in its aftermath. She tells them, there was a time when justice was a word we only whispered. Now it's something we build. One act, one truth, one name at a time. And for the first time since the trial, she smiles without guilt. At Fort Bragg, the soldiers finish installing a new memorial wall. Each plaque bears a name. Men and women lost to both battle and prejudice. At the center, larger than the rest, is Maya's. Colonel Raymond Cole stands in front of it as rain begins to fall. He removes his cap, lets the drops hit his face. He whispers, "You didn't just save soldiers, Captain. You saved the soul of the uniform." In Atlanta, a community health center opens its doors. The sign above the entrance reads, "The Harris Foundation, Maternal Health and Justice for Women in Service." Inside, doctors in white coats line the halls. Among them, Daniel walks slowly, checking each room with quiet pride. He stops in the nursery, where new mothers cradle their infants. A nurse approaches him. "Would you like to say a few words?" He shakes his head. Maya already did. Then, after a pause, she said, "Tell Daniel." He looks around the room, eyes soft. "She didn't say what to tell me, but I think I understand now." The nurse smiles gently. "She meant to tell you she believed people could change." Daniel exhales. Then she was right. Outside, the center's dedication ceremony draws a small but devoted crowd. Veterans, mothers, nurses, soldiers, all standing side by side. When the ribbon is cut, no one cheers. Instead, they all speak the same word together, Maya. The sound rises into the sky, carried by wind and memory, soft but endless. That evening, Daniel walks through the city. He passes murals of Maya painted on brick walls, each one different, a healer, a soldier, a mother-to-be. Candles still burn beneath them, replaced daily by strangers who never met her but refuse to forget her. At one corner, a young black girl stands with her mother, looking up at the mural. "Who is she?" the girl asks. The mother kneels beside her. "She's the reason you'll grow up safer." The girl smiles. "She looks kind." "She was," the mother says softly. "And she still is." Later that night, the sky clears. Daniel returns home, sits by the window where the candle once burned. He doesn't light a new one. He doesn't need to. Outside, hundreds already glow across the neighborhood. He opens Maya's old notebook again, the one filled with her sketches and notes. On the last page, he finds something he'd never noticed before, a small line written in her handwriting. "If justice has a sound, it's not a shout. It's a whisper that never stops." He closes the notebook gently. His reflection in the window merges with hers in the photo beside it. For a long time, he just sits there, watching the lights flicker in rhythm with his own heartbeat. The world didn't fix itself in 2 weeks, but it started to listen. And somewhere between the silence of her final breath and the echo of her name, a nation remembered how to care.